I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over the 3-episode premiere of Season 2 of the Andor series. So if you haven't watched those 3 episodes yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check out all 3 of those episodes, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down the 3-episode premiere of Season 2 of Andor, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, let's get it out of the way right now. Curse in Star Wars universe.
Ichuta.
Yeah, we said it.
I said it.
This is now intended for mature audiences.
I said a swear.
It's explicit content now.
Hey, I love it when they scream that in any Star Wars project. It's one of my favorite things. They said that. Ichuta.
Oh, they said a swear.
Yeah.
but yeah. I mean, so we're gonna do things a little bit differently because we've already been told that the format for Season 2 of Andor is going to be these 3-episode chunks, and they're not like quick 3 episodes. These are like nearing an hour each. So like this is basically a movie every week. So we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Normally, if we got like a 2-episode premiere or something like that, we'd break each individual episode down and then give predictions at the end. This time we're just gonna be taking them as if they're movies at this point. One giant sized episode each week. So we're gonna have our instant reactions for anything we really wanted to react to in all 3 episodes. We're going to have our takeaways, anything we kind of wanted to talk about of all 3 episodes, and then predictions moving forward. Because we just figured, if this is going to be the format for the entire season, it's not a surprise. Like, let's just, let it roll. These might go a little bit longer than normal, but, there's a lot of content. So we just figured format-wise, this would be the easiest way to do it. We're just taking them as if they were one long giant episode. But yeah, getting right into this, and I didn't even plan this, so my instant reactions are from the first episode. My takeaways are kind of starting in the second episode. Like I didn't even try to format it this way, but I just right off the bat, it instantly grabbed me, and I'm sure they did it this way on purpose. But I love that opening scene with Cassian and the whole thing of him stealing the TIE fighter as a way to kind of put us right back into kind of like this underlying tension that we had for the first season and all this stuff. Like we are right in the middle of a mission type of thing. We don't know, what led up to this. We don't know, where he's going with this or anything like that. But we've got, him interacting with somebody at this outpost, or I guess maybe research outpost or something like that, because they did say it was a test flight that was going to be happening in the morning, and he was the test pilot. But they're you hear it from them, like they're super nervous and all this kind of stuff. So it's just it just automatically kind of pulls you back into kind of that tense feeling of having to sneak around and worried about getting found out and stuff like that. And I mean, we obviously know this is a little bit further in time because, Cassian's kind of like, it's going to be fine. We got this. Like, you're doing this for a good reason. We've got that. Like, he's already kind of,
he's fully in with Luthen now at this point.
Yeah. And he's calm in this situation and everything, even though it's very clear he does not know how to drive a TIE fighter. Or fly a TIE
the TIE Avenger. Yeah, the sweet looking ship though too. I like that one. Yeah, I like that where he's just like, I think it's later on in another episode when he's talking to Clay. But he's like, "This is not the shit that I was like to train to pilot. Like this is absurd."
I do have to say this though. So when he's trying to take off with the TIE fighter at the very beginning, and he tries to move it in thinking it's going to move forward, and it moves backwards. You know what instantly popped in my head? Do you remember the scene in Independence Day?
Oops. What's that mean? What do you mean?
No, I got it. Some jerk didn't put. I know what I got it, though.
Where Will Smith first tries to drive it,
yeah.
and he does the exact same thing. He tries to go forward, and it goes backwards a little bit, and then he just like flips the little key thing around, and he goes, "Oh, okay, better." And then now he knows he has to pull back to go forward versus
their ability to kind of like instinctually figure things out on the fly.
Right.
Too, which is like, yeah, it's a really cool thing.
But it just instantly reminded me of that. But like that entire scene had me like instantly. I was back in. I was pulled right back into the Andor, universe and everything like that. It was perfect. It was the perfect opening scene for this episode and this season to just like pull me right back in, get me back into that kind of feeling of tension and everything. I thought it was just like the perfect opening scene for that, to do that. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions? And like I said, anything's fair game for like episodes 1, 2, or 3. Instant reactions, anything you want to go through, because there's definitely other stuff I want to talk about, and there's plenty more we're going to talk about. But like, just first off the bat, reactions.
Yeah, same thing. Like just like in season 1, like the opening scene of the show that we first see. In that one, that's when he takes out the 2 officers, right? That's like, kind of kicks off the whole storyline with like Cyril and all of that. But in this one, like I like that he, again, like you said, like he's kind of now like the experienced one here. He's not him being thrown into this kind of like fight. He's now like a seasoned kind of like vet in this kind of thing now. And then now he's reassuring someone who's kind of like not really sure if they're doing the right thing yet, but in their heart they kind of still know what they are too. I even like the little moment where she's like, "But I've had fun here. Like this is like I've kind of like enjoyed my experience here, and I just don't like know how. I just know it's all going to change." So it's like, oh, the human aspect of this show, I think, is one of the better qualities, I think, of the overall writing in general too. So yeah, we're off to a great start too. Like again, I love the like the Tony Gilroy did say, like, the release schedule, I guess the only problem that is probably going to be for is probably podcasters, people like us who are recapping it too, because we have so much to cover here in these like 3 like nice hour-long like chunk episodes too that are fitting a lot of story material into it as well. But but at the end of the day, like this whole 3-episode arc does kind of feel like one big movie too. So you just like it, and it flows so well that like it feels it feels more right to talk about all 3 in one block like this too. So I kind of like that we can kind of just like talk about each thing, and it's kind of like one whole story to being like boom, boom, boom. So none of it feels out of place too. Like it all flows super well, I thought. But man, Rick, really, my big thing for instant takeaways is from episode 3, and that's just rest in peace, Brasso, man. That guy goes out like a freaking champ. Yeah. I just like that, again, like the whole feelings of tension that we have, just like in the way that he kind of saves I think it's Kellen's life by like faking that he was like he sold him out just so that the Empire didn't take out that guy's whole kind of like family and stuff too, which is like just a great way show of just what the rebellion is all about too. Like you gotta save yourself for the greater good, even if like saving people who didn't know they were being saved in the moment, then like kind of clicks like that little nod they give each other at the end too. But man, he just kind of like dies off screen though too. Like he's finding a way, and we kind of get that like zoom in shot of the stormtrooper like taking that shot, but we never get actually see the actual kill blow that lands on him. We just see Cassian discover him too. So I think that it's also just kind of more the more heartbreaking aspects of the show too, that kind of show like the casualties of war that kind of happen like right there on the spot. Like you sure you got the mission job too, but then but when you were getting all that done too, like your friend just got taken out, we didn't even see it happen too. So it's like, oh man, that whole discovery of him finding him, we were kind of finding him along with Cassian too. So that was even more brutal too. But man, he was such a cool character, man. Like just had this big brute of a man who was just kind of like this little bit of like a teddy bear personality too at the same time. So I was kind of liking it to like Robin Hood and his name is big funny, yeah, Little John. So yeah, big Little John qualities there too. But yeah, he will be missed. But yeah, big sacrifice for the rebellion as always.
Yeah. You know what I was it's crazy, it popped into my head. What you were talking about with his death and just kind of the other deaths we're gonna see on the road to the end of the season, it kind of is a very, 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 very microscopic way of looking at the rebellion and Rogue One as a whole. Yeah. Because, with the original trilogy, we know just from a couple lines that someone got the Death Star plans, and that's kind of what kicks it all off. But we don't pay any attention to what they had to go through to get that.
Yeah.
But then we get
to get to that plan just in general. Right. Yeah, for
exactly. Sure. So yeah, that's such a, like, it just popped into my head when you were describing it that way, is that scene is like such a microscopic like metaphor for Rogue One and everything that had to lead up and had all of planning to get to A New Hope and to get to our original trilogy for like these bigger characters and these bigger scenes to actually take place afterwards. We didn't even think about that before Rogue One.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. So because now we're seeing now we've had Rogue One kind of for years, and now we're seeing this show is also kind of now spreading even more light to the lead up to Rogue One to like show us like how many other people had to, fight and give themselves up to be able to get, Cassian and these other characters in Rogue One to be able to even do what they did for Rogue One type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, because we know the price that Cassian ultimately plays at the end of Rogue One, of course. So, but now we're seeing that there's so many other things that he's like, gained and lost just leading up to that, getting to that big moment where he has to become a part of that team. Right. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how much depth they're adding to like this one little plan of episode 4. And it's becoming my favorite trilogy within like the actual trilogy of the Star Wars. I think really Andor, Rogue One, and episode 4 is going to become like the trilogy to watch.
I was already saying even before we started recording that after this season's over, maybe we should do a retro recap for Rogue One, because
for sure
I definitely want to. I mean, this is adding so much context, and just like you said, this is adding so much to that. I want to watch seasons 1, 2 of Andor, then Rogue One, then episode 4 type of thing, like just to feel everything in the right chronological order and everything. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's an idea for the future.
There you go.
But anyway, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off big takeaways?
Okay, so we had 3 episodes of all great episodes, but they all had so much stuff in there that I felt I just really fell into it. At least acknowledge, if not touch on it just a little bit. The first thing, of course, was in episode 1, we got to see Krennic back. Orson Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, of course, the main villain of the Rogue One movie. The main kind of like mastermind of the Death Star in general, too. Before the idea gets taken, or the credit gets taken from him by Tarkin, of course. I just like that whole board meeting kind of setup where it's just like they're literally just there like on a regular business meeting, but they're just talking about like their whole like galactic domination basically, which is really funny. But he hands like an assignment to Dedra Gorman, and she's not very like happy to get like this assignment here, but it's kind of cool because like Gorman ends up being a location that we see in Star Wars Rebels. So it actually is a place that we see Mon Mothma hanging out with like the Rebels crew and stuff like that too. So it's a pretty big event when it comes to the rebellion and stuff. So it's literally, we know that like there's they're actually set up events that are going to happen up in Rebels, which is pretty cool. Like just the fact that they're making like those little correlations there, because like it's still like a couple years away when it actually happens, but just knowing that they're setting up a little foundation for something that could actually happen, that's going to happen in the future show, is just really cool. And just seeing Ben Mendelsohn back in that Orson Krennic role is just really great. He hasn't lost a touch when it comes to playing that character. He's always just like been a really like great actor to utilize in these kind of franchises too. I wish we would have more to do as Talos in the MCU right now. But bringing him back as Krennic, which is just like, love that, because I think he's just like a greatly underrated character in the Star Wars world. And I hope we get to see more of him, even like in the animated form. I like to see some more like animated like Krennic stuff too. Episode 2, we got some we got the whole like thing with Cassian being stuck on like this jungle plan. We don't really know it. He's kind of caught in between this like rebel standoff, of course. But when he ends up getting away at the end, we get a great reveal of him flying off when we see like the temples from episode 4, the Yavin 4 base, and I was like, oh, what a cool like kind of Easter egg you just kind of throw in there too. Like he wasn't just on some random planet; he was on Yavin 4 the entire time. I was like, that is freaking awesome, and I love seeing every bit of that. And the good like the big reveal of the giant red kind of like planet on the outside too, when you which is a kind of like a great little skyline image as he was flying away. So that was really awesome. Man, episode 3 I think really has some of my favorite stuff overall. There's a lot of great character moments in there too. The first one I'm going to mention, of course, is Mom Mothma just dancing and drinking the night away after just a very stressful night after the wedding. Basically, after like Luthen just straight up tells her like we might have to kill Takoma because we couldn't get a price for him to be silent on the rebellion. She's just kind of swallowed that pill, and well, thankfully she's not doing like actual pills and stuff like that, but she's drinking like a normal rich mom would and just dancing the night away. I would just say the fact that we were just cutting back and forth between her like just kind of dancing and having a good time, and then we have like this tension, this big fight happening on the Harvest Planet too, with Cassian and all the troopers and stuff like that. It was a really funny kind of like counterbalance to each other too, but everyone was going through their own shit in different ways. Like hers is like on a big political level, of course, which is just like weighing a lot on her, not just her, but in her whole family life too. So, but then these guys are, in the nitty gritty, do it in the actual fight, taking the fight to the stormtroopers one by one. Again, there's like the two sides of war that are kind of being shown at the exact same time, which I think was really great. At the same time too, again, we're getting the cuts to Mon Mothma drinking and dancing, but we're also getting like this really tense stuff with Bix and this Imperial officer who is very aggressive towards her. I'll just say that without saying what he was actually trying to do. But man, she first of all, the actress who plays Bix is doing an incredible job. Like ever since the whole stuff with her getting tortured by the Imperial doctor, and the fact that she's still kind of dealing with that too, I think it's just kind of enhanced her performance as a character. Up a couple notches, in my opinion. She's always been a really great character, but I think she's had some of my favorite work in this episode too, especially when she beats the hell out of that guy too. Like there's some pretty brutal fights that go on in this episode too, and obviously that's like one of the more like gritty ones that happens. But yeah, him just like walking out and then falling and hitting his head on the thing and then just kind of like going too. It's just like, damn, dude, she knocked the shit out of him. And that was really satisfying to see because that dude was an asshole and he deserved it. But the last thing I really want to touch again, because it's actually some of my favorite stuff of the 3 episodes. Other than like I love all the political stuff of the wedding and stuff too. Just kind of watching like the big players kind of what talking about all the moving the chess pieces and stuff like that. But my favorite thing now is probably Cyril and Dedra as like an official couple living together too. It's just like the funniest thing too because of like their dynamic too. Like he's such a pushover too, clearly because of like how his mother treated him growing up and stuff, how she continues to treat him too. But now she's like, Dedra's such a strong personality now that like those things are clashing. And I just love that when she just kind of gives Cyril's mom the business there at the dinner table, and she's like, "No, I'm not done yet. This is
gonna be how it goes."
Yeah, this is gonna how it goes. Like, I'll make sure he calls you and make sure he visits twice a month and stuff like that. But like, come on, like stop being such a bitch to him, basically. Yeah. And then of course he comes. One of my favorite shots that made me laugh out loud was Cyril just face down on the bed, like looking there, and he's just kind of like in a despondent state. I was like, dude, I freaking love Cyril. Like the more I see him too. And I like the way he's kind of like bringing in new recruits the same way he was brought in to this new like desk job too. He's literally giving the same spiel that he was given. So he's just good at doing his job, and that's just what he wants to do. Now he goes to get home to his strong lady partner too at the end of the day. So it's really fun. But yeah, just their dynamic and stuff is just going to be, I think, one of the more enjoyable things I'm going to enjoy watching through this season for sure.
It feels so awkward together. It's such
a great dynamic, man. I just love it so much.
I do appreciate that she kind of stood up for him to his mother.
Yeah.
And was like, look, this is gonna be how it is. Just so you know. Like
she did torture Bix, but the part of me likes Dedra to a degree. So it's such a weird dynamic.
The other thing I wanted to touch on with you is the boardroom scene. I mean, you touched on so many things, so I understand.
Yeah.
They had like the 50s, stereotypical 50s era announcer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I always think of like Clone Wars, and they start off with like that kind of 40s war radio, kind of like
Yeah,
previously on Clone Wars. Like
yeah.
it's kind of like the whole thing. I love that.
But it was like
War
that 50s
propaganda voice.
announcer kind of just like going through everything and
Uh-huh.
talking about like the plan. They had not only do they have that as a presentation, but they have like social media spin team people
Oh,
that
the
are like,
classic propaganda stuff.
yeah.
It's great.
I just thought that was so crazy. And I mean, it leads perfectly into kind of what I want to, that's an aspect of what I want to talk about in my takeaway. But overall, there's two things I want to talk about in my takeaway. First is, did we see a 4-person rock, paper, scissors? Like what? I don't understand. It was a lot of this, and then it was a lot of yelling every once in a
Yeah,
while.
it's a lot of jibber jabber to lead up to like rock, Rochambeau game basically.
Yeah. But
like, geez.
but I really enjoyed like the everything from when Cassian lands and the confusion with the group, then the separation / standoff with the group. I really enjoyed all of that. And we were talking about this before we started recording. We took it two different ways. I took it in a way of this is kind of showing how the early stages of the rebellion there was still all of this, secrecy and confusion between what was even going on. Like no one knew Cassian, no one knew like where they were, and you know what I mean? Like there was just nothing but confusion. And I was taking that, and then on the flip side of that, I took the boardroom scene as this is showing us how on the flip side how put together the Imperial side is, and just kind of showing the two sides pre all of like the major rebellion clashes and the major clashes leading up to the original trilogy and stuff like that, just showing where the two sides are, but also showing like in contrast, like internally how the two sides are and where the two sides are. Because we know, as time goes, the rebellion is going to get more collected, more put together ish type of thing. I mean, they're still like, rebels, and they're still kind of working with, what they can and stuff like that. They're not, they don't have big money backers. They don't have all of this stuff really to an extent. To the same extent that the Imperial side does is what I would have prefaced that with.
Right.
But it's so lack of organization at the moment is just like, it's just interesting to kind of see those early stages. And that's kind of how I took that whole scene and that whole, dynamic and the kind of seeing the flip side of that with the Imperial boardroom meeting and all of that stuff, just kind of showing us just a snapshot of where these two sides are internally at this point of time. And it's just going to be interesting to kind of see how the rebellion goes from that to kind of getting more and more backing and more support and more like organization to lead up to where we are when we know them from the original trilogy and kind of things being put together and, stuff like that. Ultimately being able to take out the Death Star and win ultimately. I mean, they had some help, but I'm just saying, like, just seeing these early stages is really interesting. And that's kind of how I took that part and why I enjoyed it. And just kind of seeing the two sides kind of arguing and then ending in a game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. So silly.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought it was really cool to kind of see an insight into the two different sides of this right now. But you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick off predictions. It's not even really a prediction because it's really tough because we don't know exactly what gaps of time we're gonna get in between all of these chunks. I mean, we're kind of estimating that it's potentially gonna be a year-ish in between each one of them.
Supposed to lead right into Rogue One. So
right.
Yeah.
We know that for sure. We just don't know exactly, what each chunk is going to consist of and how much time is going to span in each chunk. So it's really tough to kind of predict exactly what's next and stuff like that. But one big thing that I'm wondering, because we already know, the end of the season is going to lead right into Rogue One. And there are two characters that I, thoroughly enjoy in Rogue One. And the dynamic of the two characters I enjoy in Rogue One. So I'm wondering, when / if we're going to really get to see some of that initial meeting with Cassian and K2SO.
Yeah.
Like I'm really interested of when that's going to happen, and you were saying there was actually a comic book. I didn't even know there was a comic book kind of depicting that already, but
yeah, I'm curious if they're going to follow like anything that because the comic does establish like them meeting, but I don't know if like when we see him in the show, if they'll be already partners at this point. Maybe they'll just be like, yeah, I've been working with you for a couple weeks now, or something like that. So then maybe it's like still early on in their partnership, but I could totally see them just reworking it and just being like, hey, this is how they meet here in the show. Like we just want to do this.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they're gonna have 3 episode spans for whenever that chunk actually happens, they can take a solid few minutes to kind of actually depict some stuff and then jump forward in another episode or something like that. But I would really like to see it, and I'm really hoping that we do get it. Maybe not early on, so maybe not next week, but like I don't want it to be in the end chunk. I would rather it be, within either the next or the one right after that type of thing, just to get a little bit more, established of their working together, their relationship, because in Rogue One, they're partners through and through at that point.
Oh yeah.
That type of thing. To the point where, K2 is already like, he's basically like staring down Jen Urso and stuff like that. Like, don't get close to Cassian and stuff like that.
So good.
So I'm really that is one thing that I am excited to see, and I'm really interested in hoping to see that and see a little bit more of that, fleshed out. But Rico, what do you got for predictions moving forward?
Yeah, it's gonna be so we were talking about just before too, like usually when they've done something in another form of media in Star Wars, like for some reason, like if it's happened in a comic or a book, they just don't adapt it to live screen very often too. So I really do hope that they kind of like rethink that, and actually, because I do want to see them meet for the first time on the show as well.
Yep.
So if it is different from the comic, I don't care. Like I just want to see it. Like I just want to see those two kind of like get used to each other, like in the banter form first. So yeah, I do want to see that for sure. When it comes to like characters we saw in these first 3 episodes too, characters we didn't really touch on really was Vel, who she's kind of asking Luthen about where her partner Cinta is, of course, and he's not really giving any answers. And of course we get the reveal that Cinta was actually there like basically the entire time, and she's the one who drives Take Coma off, and her and Vale actually make eye contact with each other. But I think that's another one of the great things about this show and the character dynamics too. Like even though they know each other, they can't acknowledge that they know each other because then they're gonna blow like a cover or something like that. And it's just really again just one of the great things about the writing about this show is like they see each other, they gotta just kind of look at each other, but they can't like actually formally acknowledge each other too. But she's got to just let her watch up. But the fact that she's still kind of doing that work for Luthen, but also I think basically that Luthen also lied to her face, like, yeah, she's here, but I'm not going to tell you anything too. Like it's just that great like kind of covert ops kind of way of dialogue too that they have with each other too. Like everything they're saying, like they say so much to each other without actually saying it directly, which I think is just so great about the way that the dialogue is written in this show too. So like they'll say something that like is kind of like code, but then they give like a little nod and like he's like you know what I mean when I say that. So like I just love that I'm looking forward to more stuff like of that in these shows too. It's just kind of watching like the secret code talk that everyone kind of speaks to each other with, and you just kind of like have to figure out the read between the lines, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to more of that. But when it comes to like characters from Rogue One and stuff that I would like to see, because again we're gonna lead right into the to the Rogue One story. I think you got a chance to fit in some other characters here if they fit into the story. And I think because of the boardroom meeting, like we get some scientists in that room that have the same patch that Galen Erso, Jyn Erso's dad had when we see him in that big like hologram scene where he basically reveals that he put a hole in the Death Star, right? The little flaw. But there's some of the people who had that same patch, and now it's like, oh, it would have been cool if he was in that boardroom meeting. But I imagine if we see Krennic again in the future, maybe we'll get like a cool surprise cameo from Mads Mikkelsen as Galen Erso again too, and kind of see those two kind of going back and forth in terms of like them actually talking about the Death Star, like Galen Erso actually in mid development. Maybe we actually get to see the moment he puts the flaw in there or something like that. That'd be kind of cool, right? That'd be kind of a cool thing to really do. There's a great prequel book for Rogue One. I want to say it's called Aftermath. I may be wrong on that. No, that's a trilogy. But there's another a Rogue One prequel book that's really good that kind of covers the whole like Galen Erso and Orson Krennic dynamic during that time too. Definitely worth like a read or a listen to if you have never heard it. Star Wars audiobooks are just great to listen to in general because they have like the music and sound effects and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It makes it like a really cool experience. Yeah, so I highly recommend that. But yeah, just some more. That'd be a cool cameo to see at some point in the future. And yeah, more Cyril and Dedra living together. Just give me a whole like it's like a sitcom on those two.
If you give me a sitcom, I'll like it. Yeah,
Star Wars sitcom. Let's try it out. Let's have some fun.
It'll be the first spinoff. Yeah, I think Galen would be a really cool surprise cameo. That would be awesome. I mean, we were talking about this. Even a quick Jen or so cameo would be cool because I mean. And I'm not 100%, but I think when we start the events of Rogue One, she's a prisoner. So even just like a quick her getting arrested or her being in a prison or something like that would be, a quick cameo that we could do just to kind of be like, hey, go watch Rogue One. Like, this character, like this is what this is leading to, like type of thing. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm
Riz Ahmed as Bodhi would be a cool one.
Oh,
too, the Imperial pilot. Yeah, I think that would be a cool little sneaky cameo for them kind of fitting as well. That's another actor I can just kind of see them being like, hey, you want to come back and do this episode? He goes, yeah, I'd love to do that. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any like these cool Easter eggs in here too that we can have in here and all this kind of stuff. It's awesome to just be able to sit here and be able to talk about them. So I'm excited for all of that kind of stuff and little teases and little Easter eggs and little surprise cameos throughout. Because I mean, we've got so much more content before the end of the season.
Absolutely.
So
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. But in the meantime, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the 3-episode premiere of season 2 of Andor? And there are no wrong answers. What surprise cameo would you like to see before the end of the season? I mean, it could be someone that we've seen, in Rogue One. It could be, a parent of a character that's in the original trilogy or something like that. There really aren't any wrong answers because this is tying right into the original trilogy. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.